Here's some of the other public speculation I've seen on this. There's a publication in the US that decided to start mining public data, open data sets. Now, open data sets are great. I'm a big fan of open data, and more museums are putting their collections data out there online with APIs, findable, usable, mashable, mineable. And darned if somebody didn't do this. A journalist went in and said, you know, now we can find out what's in storage and not on display. And they started doing calculations of, so if you look at all of the museums we can find with open data sets, places like the National Gallery of Art, the Rijksmuseum, how much of this stuff is out there where we can see it? And they actually calculated how many Monets are on display versus in storage. And they really focused on Egon Schiele, who they said, look, we can't even see any of this stuff. It's all in storage. Why are we entrusting it to museums? Somebody took this even further. I love this example. He said, if it's a matter of art equity, if art is a public good and a public right of the people, there should be equitable access. So he calculated the number of Monets per resident. I love this. I love it when people play with data. So he said, here are major cities in the US. Here are the number of Monets. Okay, even if they aren't displayed, he just said theoretically they could see them. Let's do this population analysis. How many people per Monet? And he said, it just doesn't seem fair that if you're in Washington, there's just 200,000 people per Monet. But if you're in Florida, poor benighted state, there are 9.5 million people per Monet. This is not equity. It's nice that he cared. But it's a serious question underlying this. You know, if you're saying that the justification for having all this stuff in storage is that it will do somebody some good someday, we have to be able to live up to that promise. And that means really biting the bullet and talking about time frame. Who do we need to benefit and when? Instead, because if we don't do that and we start collecting these massive collections, this is something that came up yesterday in several people's remarks, if instead we just have all of this stuff, this is not what the backlog looks like in your museum. In fact, I hope it is a shot from the show, very popular television show in the US called Hoarders. Because in fact, if you go to the classification scheme of the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, and you read the symptomatic signs of being a hoarder in a medical sense, it includes the inability to throw stuff away, telling people not to touch the stuff, getting severe anxiety if they get too close to your stuff, saying, oh, no, we can't get rid of that because someday it could be useful, having functional impairments to things like your social life, ability to have normal relationships, marriage, okay, we won't go there, and the inclination to hide it away where people can't see it. I'm afraid if the shoe fits, we might have to wear it. We only can avoid this charge of being hoarders if we promise to do something with it someday, and we can guarantee we'll be around in that someday to do it. Now, before I move on, I want to just bring to your attention, this is not just criticism being lobbed at us from outside the field. There is a strong movement of people inside the field saying, hey, this is an issue. Maybe there are things in collections that are being what they call lazy artifacts. There's a movement in the US, started in part by Trevor Jones of the Kentucky Historical Society, called the Active Collections Manifesto. And it said, there should be no lazy objects. If something is sitting in storage and you haven't done anything with it for 5 years, maybe it should just be gone. So this is a provocative voice from inside the field. How do we answer these critics? And if the answer is, as it so often is, because we are preserving this for future generations, how far are we going to take that?